All right. Good afternoon, Faye. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, Danielle, and yourself?
I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. So we had the pleasure to talk a little bit about your experience and some of the places that you have worked recently. And what I'd like to do now is give you the floor to give me a little recap about your professional experience, please.
Okay. I have worked with within Cookman University as an administrative assistant for the concert, chorale, and music department. I basically greeted internal and external um, students and faculty members and family members as well, and alumni. In the course of working there, I had to plan travel. Actually, I started under when I started there. I started under Dr. Steele. She's the person who actually hired me for the position. So I literally had to book travel arrangements for 250 students, know all their names, plus their parents, um, did budgeting for them, did transportation, and basically help recruit and also um, made sure that all of their paperwork was good for us coming into the university, make sure their financial aid, everything was up to par before, they would ask me questions about financial aid as well. Um, just an all around relationship and advising them as well, making sure they followed their curriculum once they came in. So it was a lot of hands on. um, some of it was outside of my realm, but if it was outside of my realm, I would make sure I know which way to direct the students. Um, I enjoyed that. That it was fun, really fun getting to know the students, and um, as well, when you work with students, young adults, when they're coming in, they are still high school. So explaining to them like you're a young adult now, you're away from home, so that aspect of them saying, okay, it's time to grow up. So
Yeah,
like this is where you're really starting to sow your oats, so to speak, but really learning how to handle your information on your own. So that was really informative and really helpful for them, and I enjoyed that. I also worked as a receptionist for Grand Villa,
hmm
working with the elderly was fun and interesting. The fun part was the things that they would say as they have gotten younger, so to speak,
I love that.
you know, um, and then to see how the response to them, as for me to them, was really, wow, you don't have to be nice to me. No, well, you are my elder. I am nice to you because that is how it should be. That is how I was raised.
Sure.
But working with them was really good. Phones, assisting with putting their information in the system. And what's um I can't remember what the actual name of the system was, but it was a medical system that we actually had to enter the information in, which
Mm.
basically was just adding like their medication or just adding in their address information from like when they come into the assisted facility. So um, that was interesting. Also making their doctor's appointments for them. Um, technically, sometimes actually, if some of the residents couldn't make their own doctor's appointment because that was a part of their independency, they could do that on their own, and we
Mm.
encouraged that. If it came to where they could not, we obviously, yes, we would do that for them. Filing things there, start going through the filing systems, and also handling the concerns of the family members. And when I say concerns of the family members, if, for example, if they hadn't received like their dinner on time, then a family member would call and say, "Okay, I just talked to them. They're not going to be able to come to the dining hall. Can you make sure that they get their meal, in their room?" Things like that. So, uh,
Having that little special touch
Right.
for
Absolutely.
someone that you'd want your own family member to
Absolutely.
experience.
Absolutely. 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 I also worked as a canvasser, which basically that was seasonal because that was during the voting period of getting people out to vote. That
Mhm.
was basically just contacting registered voters to get them out to vote. I did that. Like I said, that was just seasonal, making sure they understood what was on their ballot if they asked questions as well about that. I did that with Organized Florida for a little bit. It was seasonal. I also worked with Alpine Communications as a permit specialist. That was basically just verifying permits. So basically, I would get another department would go through making sure all of the poll information was clear and the clearances were appropriately before they sent it to me. And then I would have to go over that to make sure those clearances and the codes were up to par with the National Electrical Safety Code of utility requirements. So I would have to make sure the clearances are right and the heights and stuff are right.
Mhm.
It was very analytical, very
Okay.
uh,
Alright.
so, and you had to make sure that you were very detailed with that.
So Faye, when you were finding that out, what were you doing with the information? Were you putting it like into a spreadsheet, Excel, Word, emailing it to someone?
What we actually were doing was with that, once you did the analytical aspect of it, you would send the information back to the person in the other department who gave it to you to let them know, okay, the clearance is incorrect. Go back over it,
Mhm.
okay, and make the adjustments because based on what you're sending to me, it's not clearing. And
Mhm.
I would send it back to the person in front of another department, and either they would either come with questions, and basically say, well, the clearance is here. Nah, no, it's not. Based on what you sent me and based on what it's supposed to be. And I
Mhm.
it with my supervisor to make sure, with my trainer to make sure this is not clearing.
Mhm.
I would say and it's in different parts of the state of Florida. And I can say if you've ever been in South Florida and you see a bunch of power lines going across, and a lot of them don't have a correct clearance for it. So when when the guys would go down and say, well, we got clearance for this, and then we found a whole bunch of other stuff that wasn't supposed to be there. So what would happen? Cable companies would actually put up lines where there shouldn't be.
Oh, okay. I
Right.
think I've seen that actually. I think that happened at my own house.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So did you have anything to do with any of the FCC like regulations and things with any of that?
No, not with the FCC, just the electrical part of it, the National Electric Safety Codes,
Mhm.
utility regulations part of it. Not the
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop this part of the interview, Faye, but don't go anywhere. We got a few more things to chat about.
Sure.